Hello, my name is Spencer Kimball, the director of the Emerson College Poll, and I'm joined today with my assistant Cole Moots. And we're going to look at the New Hampshire Republican and Democratic primary. Cole, what did we see in the New Hampshire Democratic primary
We
this
saw
week?
Sanders up at 27%. We saw Biden closely behind at 25%. And then we saw Kamala Harris, at a solid 12%. And then finally we saw Warren with 9%, which was, I'd imagine, pretty disappointing if she got 9% in the actual.
Well, 9% in New Hampshire,
New Hampshire,
which is a state where
she wants to do well.
That's correct. Yeah. And what's interesting here is last week when we were looking at the national poll, we saw that Sanders' numbers were dropping and Harris was actually picking up.
Yes.
And so we thought it was important that Sanders jump into the race, and that's exactly what he did. And now we see that that jump gave him a bounce in New Hampshire where he's got this 2-point lead. But more importantly, it's the 18 to 34-year-old age group.
That's his base.
44% of that vote is going with Sanders. And this is exactly the coalition that we saw him create in 2016. And I ask you, do you think he's going to be able to hold this together?
I'd imagine. I think this is a strong. I don't think he drops below this.
Really? Because
I think this is, or maybe he drops 1 or 2 points. But he got 60% in New Hampshire last time, so I imagine that half of that is probably his strong supporters. Maybe everyone else is kind of shopping around, but I think that he has about a fifth or fourth of the vote that will stick with him in that primary.
And then if we take a look at Biden, he's getting 25% of the vote, but about in his base is like 65 plus.
Yes, yeah.
And what I saw was he's getting about 40% of that vote. But Warren is getting about 18%. So if he has a problem in the race, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these folks come over here, maybe see these numbers go up for Warren.
So if he drops out, his support would go to Warren more than any other candidate.
Potentially what we're seeing up in New Hampshire.
Makes sense.
What about in the GOP race?
In the GOP race, we had Trump at 80%, and his only declared challenger as of now. So Mr. Weld is only at 20%.
Yeah, so we'll throw in the rest of his name. So you got Bill Weld in there. And what's interesting is when we looked at Iowa just a couple of weeks ago, we had Trump against Kasich, and he was up 90 to 10. Oh. So you might look at this and be like, wow, this is a big blowout. But what's concerning if I was Bill Weld is the Trump approval amongst GOP primary voters.
It's 90%.
That's right. So in the state, Trump only has like a 42, 43% approval rating. But amongst the GOP primary voters, it's like 84%. And that's why he's got such a strong lead in that field.
I would imagine this would be a stronger state for Weld because it's New Hampshire, it's all independent people that vote Republican, and they've close to where he governed, Massachusetts, right? So
that's right. So this could be a state where Weld might be able to show some movement, but you got to presume if he's unable to, then he's going to have trouble in South Carolina and other states that are going to come down the road. And so as we continue to take a look at the 2020 candidates, follow the road to the White House with Emerson Polling. Next week we'll be in South Carolina.